Yeah, I'm gonna want to make sure that the lighting is the way it needs to be. And yeah, I just got this hat here, and in any case, yeah. So I had some visors, but this is like the newest one that I just got. But anyway, yeah. So I was kind of like thinking about the thought about the um, annotation in the way of directing jurisprudence having a result of what monopolizing might only give the appearance of maybe having the right to assemble, or what that is in aggregates, or circuit, or once again, it seems to be a real deal about why patent is not copyright, or why Bitcoin is not cryptocurrency, or why the Fifth Amendment is not a non-negotiable, uh, why the Fifth Amendment is not a non-profit organization. Yeah, but it seemed to be like the real deal about ultimately what the Social Security Administration normally means of employment, not necessarily um, suggesting that a degree level is maybe the only distinguishable difference of what only Social Security means, and non-negotiable, non-transferable itemization in a way of a method of banking, and what that is as intellectual of international law, having fair use of intellectual easements, and even in third person in a way of whether or not if any ideology of like VPNs would only be maybe a designated method of maybe anything other than maybe a color code of space exploration, and in a way of what a sole proprietorship of silent partnership might only give the appearance of whether the acronym of a VPN is only representative of an administration of a presidential, executive, and legislative, as compared to what family law might only suggest as what virtual is to VPN, as compared to a vice president network, or the plenipotentiary, and what the plenipotentiary is about the deal about the bar. Um, yeah, it seemed to be the big deal of whether the spectrum is only the issue of like the inspector general in a way. I mean, ultimately, it's information that's been originating from Social Security in 1-800-772-1213, and it's like almost the thought that a direct deposit based upon even whether or not if even being in a bank at all is only suggested as a method of banking, as compared to maybe what the history of a mailbox is in a way of like a rural route, designating what a method of banking only might seem to be of routing. What switching to routing is to maybe the thought of what a secret de facto only means to vent is love 30, in a way of some alphanumerics ultimately originating from using 64 and 36 equating to like 181 separately, of 64 and 36 equating to 181, Houston, Texas Electronic Power Way International. And like I said, I mentioned before, I'm not real sure to exactly what all is involved with selective service. I mean, it seemed to be straightforward, but maybe not at all. I'm not real sure what's involved with it. Something that seemed to be maybe something that would be almost like an ASVAB of the an Army thing about the ASVAB, and the armed forces in a way of like Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines. Coast Guard is a little bit. I'm not sure if it actually includes a need of ASVAB in a way of like one of the most basic tests that seem to be the I think it's aptitude, skills, vocational, and something about, I think, battery. I'll have to think about it. But yeah, it's like alphabetically to 45, right? And what that is to ERISA, in the way of the IRA, or distinguishable difference that would give the impression of what categorization is below business and corporate law. And maybe the thought of whether or not if the deal about between the two presidents of Roosevelt, being Franklin and Theodore Roosevelt, it's like 6 presidents in between, and it seemed to be like the big deal, like right now, like a mandatory requirement, what a telekinetic role really seems to be involving the thought of distinguishable difference that would represent maybe what a political motivation is in a way of Univision, or my thought of what Univision represents. It gives the impression of like language, and the difference between like Lee being FB17 and Q and FBI as compared to L. And you've heard the El Presidente thing about the How true it is, if it's only limited to the language associated with like Spanish, or if that would even include Latin, I'm really not sure. But it seems to be like the deal about the equator in any case. In history of U.S. dollar, I mean, I think about and refer to the book Secrets of the Temple, How the Federal Reserve Runs the Country, because it seems to be really be the book about some factors in the content in that way. In any case, yeah. So like I was thinking about something about the annotation, directing jurisprudence, um, you know, um, giving the impression of what monopolization might only be suggested as a constitutional law or having the right to assemble, and whether participation is only effective, management or willingness acknowledging or knowledge or or demanded participation, whether it be contractual or cause and effect or or monopolizing as a distinguishable difference as to what only intellectual property might only be as an easement of international law, being an easement, whether that's including a storage file such as a compact disc, or the meaning of what's on it and like who's involved, or the thought that a third person in a way that might even represent something beyond like a VPN, or something of a podcast that would reflect maybe a sole proprietor or silent partnership, and and what a VPN would be, maybe not the accusation of whether liability is any burden of proof as any responsibility based upon maybe only the perception of um, that fact, or how law's really practiced, or what that is to the note being legal tender for all debt, both public and private. I mean, ultimately it gets to whether or not, if it's the accusation of the FDIC only representing terminology as commercial paper as a claim, repeatedly having a direct deposit being given the impression of a checking account, and it seems to be ultimately whether or not, if the history of a mailbox being a rural route is only a method of checking account, or what that really is to the phone number itself of like Social Security, 1-800-772 1213, and really what that is to the thought of 12 and 13 being the deal about 25 and all that stuff of the 25th letter, and spelt out based upon pronunciation, with the WHY being 56, and ultimately gets to like Chase Ink and Papermate, and the double vertical heart, what the heartbeat of America is to even a PD beat, or in any case, what citation really is an annotation in a way of codes, and how citation only reflects whether or not, if the mayor's office is just some barometric altimeter of a condensing residual that only represents, likewise in addition, a national level, beyond municipal thought of what maybe only municipal annuity might only mean to a storefront. Or what the deal is about fine arts and humanities that way. The humor, about the whether or not, if deal about the suit and civil suit, or litigation would reflect maybe whether or not, if terminology would result as a settlement or annuity, or compensation, and what distinguishes the difference is between what would be maybe presented as a dimensional clause as either abbreviation or acronym of Washington D.C. itself, or what duration really suggests as intellectual duration. I mean, lifespan is normally, likewise in addition, duration, or the two words normally almost immediately the intellectual reality of legal terminology. Duration and lifespan are like the two about it. Yeah. So it's kind of like thinking about the IRA as compared to the ERISA statute that way. And I'm not really trying to do anything other than based upon memory. It seemed to be like the thought whether or not, if the deal about circuit as compared to maybe what paper would suggest to an endorsement as compared to just commercial paper itself, something maybe even an FDIC would mean on paper, as a claim, not really identified as a litigation, is really not de facto, or Chase practical in a way what Papermate only seemed to be of the 56 is 10, and all that stuff getting to like a pronunciation and spelling, ultimately getting to the 94 adoption, abortion, and annotated thing about Roe v. Wade, and even the spelling of like Roe and what that is to the news, in legal media that way, or auditing legal media of deposition and what that is, on paper, or transcript, or teleprompting in a way of like live television as compared to like live auditing, or the live recording in the way being live, not necessarily edited in any kind of way, of its original deal about television, not necessarily edited in a way of what motion picture might only suggest is in that way, but auditing the deal, like Sarbanes and Oxley, I mean, ultimately seems to be, the deal about a financial instrument, in the way of what even, borrower's terminology might only mean, as compared to what an endorsement might only represent, maybe through a degree level of only what opportunity means based upon, neglect based upon lack of experience of just being in a bank, okay, or, a direct deposit that has a source, but, the deal is, the question, is a bank really presenting the deal about whether or not the U.S. dollar is just like the accusation that de facto, or the note, is legal tender for all debt, both public and private, like it's a registered charity, and the claim that a defective like U.S. dollar is like only categorized and not necessarily itemized or identified, and if that's only the accusation of maybe a breach or a slanderous deal about defamation and entertainment law, or a breach of copyright, and who's who, and what the name and identity means to normally commercial paper, normally of a living quarter, of venue, not necessarily a neighborhood of residential, and normally that's really the ultimate reality about Social Security, the word social itself, having a right to assemble, as a non-degreed issue, and what an undergraduate is to alumni, or what experience really is in that way. And so it's kind of like thinking about that, because there had been several factors that I've been thinking about the immediate deal about whether or not the of something of memory, like involving Oracle Corporation and middleware, or some thought of like middleware being something like the history of the television screen of Technicolor, and what pastel is to middleware of Oracle as compared to database administration, normally the big deal about enterprise management, or business intelligence, or what my thing is, automatically it's like something of here recently I've been thinking about something about of Cybelle, and all of a sudden the Bell thing, it's like it's automatically like in my mind in the Houston area, Southwestern Bell, and AT&T taking over Southwestern Bell, and still maintaining the blue thing about what network operations is, or my thought automatically of like Highway 59 automatic 247 degree attached as a Southwest issue of like the Houston area in that way, and what Oracle Corporation is to Houston as compared to Redwood in California. And it seemed to be the deal about the Roosevelt New Deal Act, and New Deal being 64 with New Deal Act being 88. It seems to be the deal about HTTP:// in the way of my thought about the distinguishable difference between the Houston and the Redwood, California deal, and thought of the movie with Robin Williams and Bicentennial Man at the Redwood location of the Oracle Corporation, Redwood, California. But anyway, it seemed to be the deal, but even the deal about the Bicentennial deal, or the thermocouple semiconductor, and what the deal between the HTTP colon as compared to semicolon, and the thought of ambidextrous participation in that way. And in any case, yeah, so I was kind of like thinking about this Cybelle. It's like an automatic perception in my mind of like, and I asked Oracle, and if even if I can even be convinced really if any cause going beyond what a operator only might designate as whatever it sounds like it means, like like an immediate like today, and here recently in the last several months, it's really kind of frustrating thinking about it. But anyway, it's kind of like the Cybelle is kind of like, I'd ask the person about the phone number, calling Oracle 1-800-ORACLE-1 about the Cybelle. I mean direct question about the Cybelle. I mean is it true? I mean did Oracle actually engineer the software engineering of the Cybelle, or is it like an automatic perception of like the Roosevelt New Deal Act as compared to Robert E. Rubin and some 109 governors present, 109, 110, 247 of the Roosevelt New Deal Act? I mean, it seemed to be the deal of Franklin Roosevelt and Theodore Roosevelt being like a 6-year I mean, excuse me, a difference of 6 presidents, and the sixth thing being spelled out being 52, and VPN, what a vice president network is, to the Roosevelt New Deal, acting like a Los Angeles that way. Or the Chevrolet Geoprism is Geoprism. And the way it's spelled with the Z instead of the S, and in the alphanumeric 109 is 110, and what the Port of Houston is to that, and my thought about the Oracle Corporation involving the Cybele. I mean, it seemed to be the deal about, you know, the Persian Gulf, in that way. How true it's, if it's including OPEC, or just, you know, the Persian Gulf in a way. And the color code seemed to be like really the deal about the Nostradamus thing, and the Orson Welles narrating, you know, the Nostradamus thing about, you know, the deal of the Persian Gulf and the blue turbans. Okay, it's like the code blue thing, even the Southwestern Bell that way of the Persian Gulf. Okay, and all that stuff about JetBlue. I was thinking about that because I'd asked the question. I mean, is it like the software of Sabah, like when I was looking at it, was, you know, in Arabic. Not that I can even read Arabic, but, you know, it's like, it kind of looks like something like on Highway 36, on the way to Abilene, on Highway 36, and like a movie that was like made there, that represents almost like something of a memorial, based upon, you know, whether if the deal about consciousness, or, you know, what that is to you know, genetic cloning, or, you know, what that is to you know, triplets. I call it like yeah, octa-quadruplet, quintuplet thing about, you know, like identical identity. But anyway, there's a movie about that, and it's like a portion of it is like on Highway 36, in between like Houston, even like I think it's Brenham and Abilene 36. But like on the road, it's kind of like all that like stuff on the road. I mean, almost looks like, you know, Arabic in writing. I mean, for real, and or you know, Greek. Some translation between Greek and Hebrew and Arabic. I mean, it really it always gave me that impression of like Greek and Hebrew and Arabic that way. What it looks like on the road, just driving with like a little bit of a repair and on Highway 36, which is like in the same immediate area. The movie that is about something, you know, about the content of you know, the thing about it. But anyway, yeah. So anyway, yeah, there's a location right there, out like really off 36, like almost like in the middle of, you know, virtually nowhere. But yeah, there's a movie about that, and what that is, the ATP colon is the thing about it. Or, you know, what maybe the semicolon would only represent to a comma, or pronunciation, a long or short of comma. You know, consonants, subconsonants, or all that stuff like that. Yeah, so it seemed to be like the deal of a HTTP colon // and what a semicolon is to a comma, or the pronunciation of comma that way, or .com, or, you know, all that stuff about it. Anyway, yeah, so like ultimately, you know, it's kind of like asking, you know, a person about the Cybele. I mean, in my mind, it seemed to be like the deal of the Persian Gulf once again. And my question being, and I didn't get a direct answer, if Cybele is actually something of the Persian Gulf that actually did the software engineering, you know, itself. I mean, and I'd ask the question, is it limited to the Persian Gulf of Cybele, or is it like really identifying, you know, the word relation in between, you know, computer architecture and computer platform, and the deal about the book cover, you know, with the lizard, you know, being the lizard, about the desert, and what that is, like 71 in Pearland, or the deal about, you know, a secret, or, you know, that way, and the list goes on about Vantage Love 30 and Better Business Bureau, and what the operator is to Business 108, and Operator, and Bicentennial, and Chevrolet, and all that stuff, and Zero, likewise, in addition, with like ACTP, of computer programming and language, and the deal about the Zion, yeah, that way, and the separation between church and state. I mean, the list goes on, and I never really got a real direct answer, and I haven't really looked for it, but it just seemed to be something like, it's really kind of like, you know, it's not like I'm really trying to think about it, it's just something that, you know, I decided to call, because there's like a deal going on about even making a real call and getting some real conversation about some real answers is like, yeah. So anyway, so like that was something about that, because I was thinking about some of the content really about the annotation, and what monopolizing intellectual in the form of an easement, and what that is to proper English grammatical composition, or, you know, really, or what a pronoun might only suggest as whether or not if a third person as maybe what might represent maybe intellectual as an easement, as compared to maybe what might only suggest maybe a sole proprietorship in space exploration silent partnership gives the impression of maybe an option of what silent partnership might only suggest in the form of what that is, even to the acronym. It seemed to be my situation of SSI, or what supplemental security is to superstar investment. I mean, for real, or the ISS, or the International Space Station. And that's why I'm referring to space exploration, or what the deal is about the W television network in a way of like a V twin, and being the 44 of the two V's, that way of biblical reference, as well as other factors that would suggest communications, that way of my thought of Big's Formula 44, even entertainment law in that way, or flight pattern. As a matter of fact, today it's kind of like it ultimately had gotten to a flight pattern, seemingly deal about of an arrowhead, or some peripheral tolerance in the way of what a 90-degree right angle only is to a perfect 10-10 vision that way, or what peripheral tolerance might mean to the flight pattern of an arrowhead, and even the Big Firth drumstick has the similarities. What that is to the Statue of Liberty in that way, or even the pylon, similar, or the dot with a circle, and what that is to a perpendicular spiral. And it seems to be the deal about a 90-degree right angle. It's probably one of the few two-dimensional flat planes of isometrics that's really, it doesn't even look that way, but really only experience would know. Something like the design on the Gulf Freeway, South Gulf Freeway I-45, like FM 528, NASA Road 1. The design, I mean, it's like a waveform, a cycle of like a frequency and oscillation with the dot. It almost like an accented type of like Morse code, but really what it is like a 90-degree of like a isometric of three-dimensional of a perpendicular spiral, and at the 90-degree would look like either like a telepathic TP of a Native American Indian ultimately getting to the Statue of Liberty and the Eurodollar, or the pylon going with some absolute value that way, of the delta force, and what the triangle is that way to a 6-point star, and the arrowhead that way of a flight pattern, or peripheral tolerance of an arrowhead, even a 6-point star like Star of David, and like the Israeli flag, and all that connectivity. I mean, I look at all that with like alphanumeric linguistics and practical application, principle, and integration, compatibility, and analytical, and all that stuff about it, right? So anyway, like that's kind of like where I'm at right now, because getting some real communication is like really getting to be like seriously not funny at all to me, and I'm really kind of trying to get somewhere other than feel like like there's like the deal about even mentioning it this way. So anyway, yeah. So like I thought I'd include that because as a matter of fact, something about the side belt, and it was like the deal about once again, I want to say it real quick before I don't mention it and include it, is the embedded encryption, and that way what relation is between architecture and platform that way, as compared to my thought of I'm trying to think of oh god, man, and I'll have to actually think about it again, oh god, yeah. Oh yeah. Anyway, yes, I'm gonna have to think about it and come back and maybe do it again, maybe a little bit later, about whether if it's a partitioning, the big four of yet a partition that would represent maybe what only opportunity is, not necessarily the degree level. And likewise, in addition, and the degree level that way of, partitioning and involving. I'm actually trying to place it, and I was just thinking about it earlier. But anyway, yeah, it seemed to be the deal about it. Yeah, so I mean, if it's ultimately getting to the thought of the cubicle, or some cubed factor of like powers as identified, that would normally be identified as addition, yet of multiplication based upon other factors not really being identified in the cube, about a power, a multiplication as compared to a variable, sometimes of in need of factoring computation of formula of the exponential quotient that way as compared to the pi r squared. But anyway, yeah, I mean, it seems to be like the real big deal of like some practical application of integration and compatibility that way of the thing about it. But anyway, yeah, so like I thought I'd mention that real quick because I want to maybe talk about maybe throwing a little bit of maybe a few segments maybe of some songs, just do it that I'm really, as far as my original music goes, but I thought maybe I'd do that because I'm thinking about it because there's like 13 of them. And I'm just really, it's been like quite some time. I like really, I'm really, really not wanting to wait. And I don't like waiting about the original music. And it's really not funny or amusing to me that way. So anyway, yeah, okay, great. Anyway, so like I'll talk to you later, okay?